Good evening, everyone. It is Tuesday, March 5th. It is 6:02 p.m. This is a meeting of the town council. Will everyone rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everyone. The following members of town council are present. Um, Persco, Kohut, Mauer, Lapellis, Formicella, Reed, Wales, and Duva.
Here comes Cole.
I did get her. Mr. O'Rourke is absent. The following members of the Board of Finance are present. Manjos, Perch, O'Donnell, Spino, Stoffer, and the only absence is Sentimentus. I will welcome the Board of Finance.
Thank you for having us.
Always appreciate the collaboration and having this meeting before we begin our budget workshops and deliberations. I ask that communication items A and B be incorporated into the notes of our meeting. Finally, moving on to item 4, joint discussion with Board of Finance regarding the fiscal year 24-25 budget. Again, thank you very much for the Board of Finance for attending this meeting with us. Brandon Manjos has done a wonderful job in our previous years of explaining expectations and how we can work collaboratively in doing what's in the best interest of the town. So at this point, I'm going to turn the meeting over to Chairman Manjos.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, everybody on the town council. Thank you, everybody on my board for coming. And thanks for inviting us to this joint meeting. Just to set some ground rules, and also we have a number of new members, I think on both sides. So I think it's important that everybody understands and we set expectations. So I think most people are aware we've been doing these joint meetings for a number of years now. And I do truly value the working relationship we've developed with the council over the years. As I often say, it was not always this way. But I believe we've come to a good understanding of everybody's roles and what those expectations are. We also now this year have a new first selectman who's done a very good job diving into the budget. And by all accounts, I think this will be a challenging year for all of us. The ending of grants, increasing in school children, contractual agreements, difficulty in the insurance market will make this year, to my opinion, especially challenging. I know the first selectman has proposed using a considerable amount of fund balance, and I do support that move. When the budget arrives at the Board of Finance, we will review the exact amounts, but conceptually, I believe we're on the right path. Now, I've expressed this a number of times over the last few years, but I think it's important that I don't believe it's in the purview of the Board of Finance to go through every individual line and to manage the town. Obviously, we have the first selectman, we have the town council, who to me is more responsible for the daily operations of the town and for setting the budget for those towns. The Board of Finance's job is to figure out how to pay for it and what the town can afford. And, we're going to continue to stay on that path. I don't expect, again, 10 years ago when I started doing this, we used to get down to hundreds of dollars in every line item, but we're going to leave that to town council to go through, and we're going to assume that your guys are going to go through it thoroughly, as you always do, and then we'll just kind of hit the big numbers as we go through. I've always advocated leaving the personnel and also the pay to the first selectman and town council. I know there's a number of changes this year. There's a number of contractual things. But deciding the staffing and support level lies, to me, with the town council and the first selectman. And then once those decisions are made, we'll do our best to find out where we can fund. We do have one big strong advantage, and that's the fund balance. High rates has also allowed our treasurer to generate a considerable amount of income for the town. And I expect that will continue this year. We've done a nice job of growing the grand list, which again allows us to offset, significant increases in education costs. Now, keep in mind the teacher's contract, which I was actively involved with, was settled without arbitration, but does carry a significant cost increase. At the time of negotiation, I was very clear and expressed concern that we may end up with higher paid teachers, but we may end up with fewer of them. And that's a risk the union was willing to accept. So the good news is, we have some advantages from revenue side, but the cost side is obviously very high this year. We are at a very low point in debt, and we've got a little over a 4.3 million dropping off this year. We've committed to some projects, but I still believe we can tack on some capital projects, even though interest rates are considerably higher than we've gotten used to over the past few years. I think we still need to continue to do things on an ongoing basis so we don't get behind on improving infrastructure, certainly taking care of some of the things that need to get done on an ongoing basis. The other thing I would love to see is the town council kind of go through the projects, the capital projects specifically, and really prioritize them. Again, I don't believe it's the role of the Board of Finance to pick projects or to decide which projects get done. It's our role to figure out what the best way to fund those projects, be it regular operating, be it funding, be it grants, all those kind of things will come into play, and also our fund balance. It is at a very high level. We are proposing using a decent portion of it. We used a decent portion of it, but we're still at the higher end of our range. So we do have some flexibility there going forward. I also think one of the areas I think we need to spend a decent amount of time reviewing over the next couple months is roads. It's something we've been talking about a bunch in finance. I've been talking about getting together and having a meeting with you guys. It's on me that we haven't done it yet, but I think we need to take this opportunity to really reevaluate at least a long-term plan. We did this 10 years ago. We might have gotten a little off track because, it's a big number and it comes up every year. But I think it's time we do that again and really take a hard look at our long-term capital plans and really schedule that out. And roads is a big portion of that. And other than that, again, we're happy to do a joint meeting for capital if you think it's necessary. Certainly we could do it when the budget's with us. If we want to go through specific projects or you have questions about what we can and can't afford. We certainly, again, in the last few years have kind of been in that $5 to $6 million range, feeling comfortable with that. Now that our debt is even considerably lower, if there was a number of projects, it's just trying to balance the number of projects with the rates that may come up. But again, these are decisions that may take a couple of years to get done. So that's really about all I have. I mean, obviously, the Board of Finance is always available to come if there's specific questions or anybody to reach out to any of us. We tend to dive in pretty deep on the budget, and also we'll spend a lot more time on the revenue side. I think there's some opportunities to look at places where we can develop more revenue. I think the town is in a mode where it hasn't been in a while, and it feels like we're growing a little bit again. It's commercially growing, schools are growing, there's development going on. So those do create challenges, but also opportunities from a revenue side. So we'll spend a decent amount of our time really diving into the revenue to see if we can develop some more detailed plans and where we can offset some of these spending increases.
Well, thank you. And so I guess the question I would have is I think our statement and a question. I think a joint meeting with finance on the capital projects after there's been a referral made by the strategic plan committee to town council after that, moving to speak to Board of Finance, I think is a great idea. And I just want to confirm that $5 to $6 million capital bonding range is confirm that's not a hard and fast number, but we'll work collaboratively.
No, exactly. Right. It's definitely
Right.
not a hard and fast number, but it's certainly, if you look at what we've dropped off and added on, I mean, it's certainly a comfortable number for me, and I'm sure most of the board will agree because we kind of look at that number. Overall, our debt ratios are shockingly low. because we haven't done any of those major projects in a number of years. But there are a few things that obviously do need some attention. And I think I think the tend to reaction is to put off things, and long term that always bites you. So I would rather do it on a regular basis, be consistent with it. Even though the rates are a little bit more expensive, we can always refinance down the road if rates come down to a cheaper level. But I think skipping capital projects would be a mistake. So I do want to make sure that we're consistently doing things long term and picking off projects that we need to get done.
All right. Thank you, Mike. Is there any member of the Board of Finance that would like to say anything?
Yeah.
Mr.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I just have a handful of comments for things that I want to focus on. The first is to restore the reduction of the Board of Ed budget, less any of the savings that will come from lower insurance. I think there are ways that we can raise additional revenue, or have savings in other places and restore most of what was reduced. The school system is growing. Anybody who's gone through their budget or listened to their presentation will understand their need and the fact that almost all of what they requested was contractual in nature, which in some respects ties back to something that Chairman Mann just talked about. Once the contracts are set, that's the numbers we have to live with. The second is I would like us to look at increasing the tax collection rate 0.1% or so. We continue to exceed the rates we've set. We're finding it in this current year went up 0.1 point from where we were when there was more issues externally, COVID and whatnot. So I think we discussed last year the possibility of a recession, which obviously did not happen, and I think those risks are declining. So there may be a bit of increase that maybe we can capture a little bit more dollars. Third is what Mike already talked about, is increased spending on roads. We clearly have the bonding capacity. We have the general fund balance. Last year, even during our conversation, former First Selectman Kellogg agreed that we needed to look at increasing the amount going forward. And now we're actually getting to the point where roads that were initially done between 2010 and 2014 need to be redone, because they're now back down to a mid-60 rating, which, on a scale of 100 is a failing rating, and we haven't gotten to a whole bunch of other roads at all. So we really do need to, in my view, to do what the professionals recommend, and that is to increase the amount we're spending on roads. My next item was to do what we said last year, which was try to avoid using the general fund to fund operating budget items rather than using it for projects. And so a little surprised to hear, Mike, that you were maybe okay with using more of it for operating items, but I guess that's something we'll have to work through. Well, another item is to schedule a second joint meeting with the town council. Last year, the Board of Finance discussed the fact that once we get into making decisions, it was done. There was no way to circle back with the town council, and working collaboratively, we needed a way to do that. So we talked about having a second joint meeting, and we would host that. And so based on what my chairman said, I think that's something we'll definitely do. I think the couple things that I'd like the council to look at is municipal staffing levels. When you look at it, we seem to be habitually underspending in staffing. And we know there's been a lot of turnover. And so I think that's one area that council can look at, we can look at, to see whether there's any dollars that can be saved, because if positions aren't being filled for half a year or whatever, then we might as well budget accordingly. And then the last thing that I know the Board of Finance will talk about in detail is what kind of projection should we use for investment income? We've been well exceeding that, which is great, and we thank the treasurer for doing that. But at the same time, if we know that it's reasonable to expect we're going to get more income, that simply keeps the taxes down. So those are the areas that I want to talk about and focus on. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Kirsch. Is there any other member of the Board of Finance that would like to speak? All right, thank you very much. Is there any member of the Town Council that would like to speak?
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Mallon?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I always find this to be a helpful exercise. Starting off, I agree that it would be more helpful to have a secondary meeting, which it sounds like is the plan this year once the budget is in the Board of Finance hands. I think
That's
the
my plan, yeah.
most important part of that is the capital, but it certainly allows the Board of Finance to also ask any other questions, not capital related. I have a list of things that I planned on concentrating on, and it very closely matches what was already brought up by my colleague on the Board of Finance.
For the workshop?
This is going to be part of the tomorrow with our one of the major things tomorrow for I think the council to look into is the staffing. We constantly see line items where we have positions that either aren't filled and therefore have a budget and the year to date is zero year after year after year. And we have to decide whether that's a product of not needing those positions or whether that's a product of not having a competitive enough salary for those positions to fill those positions, in which case we need to make sure that we do have a competitive enough salary to fill those positions and adjust the budget accordingly either way. The other main one is the property taxes. We consistently over collect on what we're estimating. It's a great problem to have, except for the fact that we're doing it on the taxpayer's dime because we're constantly returning a surplus on both the Board of Ed and the town side that is getting taxed to our taxpayers. We need to trim the fat out of this budget. And part of that is increasing the revenue estimated that we constantly underestimate. It's a nice cushion to have, but that's what the rainy day fund is for. The rainy day fund is not to be part of our budgetary spend. It is for when we have miscalculated or for when there's an unexpected expense. We should be calculating our revenue accurately and not taxing our taxpayers more, just to make sure that we continue to build that rainy day fund as it does year after year after year. And the final part is not so much for the council, but is for the Board of Finance. And in my opinion, jointly with the Board of Education, is this cut to the Board of Ed. There certainly will be a portion of the Board of Ed budget that can be cut based off of the insurance. As for blindly making a cut without actually having the communication with the Board of Ed, I think that is premature and foolish. There should be a joint conversation with the Board of Finance and the Board of Ed to go through where surpluses on the Board of Education actually come from in the year to make sure that the amount that is cut, if any amount is cut, is consistent with those surpluses where they are. And that will give the Board of Education the ability to then make cuts accordingly to where those surpluses are. So that, I think, is a job for a joint meeting of the Board of Finance and the Board of Education. And I hope that the Board of Finance can arrange that within their schedule to make sure that any adjustment to the Board of Education line is actually in line with what our budgetary needs are.
Thank you, Mr. Mauer. Is there any other member of Town Council that would like to speak at this time? Hearing none, I would like to thank the Board of Finance, all its members, Chairman Manjos, Vice Chair O'Donnell, and Mr. Kirsch, Ms. Stauffer, Ms. Spino for attending our meeting. Very productive, and I believe we will have another meeting in the near future when the budget passes into all of your hands. Okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Now, we have a matter of new business tonight, for. By the way, the Board of Finance does not have to remain for this portion of the meeting. All right, so I'm gonna move that the town council waive, Rule 13 of our town council rules of procedure for resolution 24-034. Is there a second? Second by Jason Maurer. Discussion, what I would say is, we have been asked by the registrars of voters, to expedite, this motion here tonight on, coming to an agreement with, St. Jude's, for the placement of, a fix of our licensing agreement for programming related to early voting, primary voting, and the dates listed in this new agreement. The registrars needed to file with the Secretary of State. Certainly, I believe it was last Friday. They had to confirm the location, so they had asked us to expedite our review of this agreement. That is why we did not have an LNA meeting here tonight, because of our joint meeting with the Board of Finance and the public hearing. So is there any other discussion about waiving Rule 13, which require our town council to have this go through LNA rather than the whole town council considering it at the same time? Is there any? Okay, no other discussion. All those in favor of waiving Rule 13, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, this passes 8-0. Now moving on to the motion itself. Madam Vice Chair.
Resolved, resolution 24-034, resolved that Terrence P. Rooney, first selectman of the town of Monroe, is authorized to execute and deliver on behalf of the town of Monroe the third amendment to the license agreement and any associated documents by and between St. Jude Roman Catholic Church Corporation agreement and for programming.
Thank you very much, Madam Vice Chair. So there's a motion to adopt resolution 24-034. Is there a second? Second by Jason Maurer. So motion by Vice Chair Lapellis, second by Jason Maurer. Discussion, I'm going to turn it over to the first select.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This came about through a conversation with the registrar of voters looking to not burn the school system during the primary and the referendum. Also, was a conversation with myself and the superintendent of schools. We've been in contact about during a regular election, the schools are closed. During these two situations, they are not. And to do it twice in 1 year was a stress. So understanding that we had availability with St. Jude School, we approached them and we entered this agreement. There was multiple previous amendments for Parks and Rec to operate over there. So this is just in addition to what was kind of already going on to allow us to use it for these specific uses. So while we continue our efforts towards the proposed and previously discussed purchase of this facility, several town departments are seeking to utilize space at the former St. Jude School building for certain programs in the upcoming months. For your review and consideration, I attached the third amendment to the license agreement previously adopted. This amendment extends the agreement through June 30th, 2024, while maintaining all other terms of conditions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And then I would just ask either or both registrars, if you'd like to speak to the issue and why we're making the change. And if you won't mind coming down, just talking on it. One, both. We gotta have you. We gotta pick you up on the mic, unfortunately.
Right here?
Yep, very good, thanks.
Everything's together?
You should turn the other way.
That's fine, as long as the mic's picking up. Let's.
No, go ahead, you're good. So, I'm Catherine Briggs. I'm the Democratic Registrar of Voters for the town of Monroe. Separate Duchess, the Republican Registrar of Voters. We are requesting this, as First Selectman Rooney mentioned, to help ease the school districts. We had some feedback last year from the schools about holding polling places during school time. So we are trying to ease that concern. We are also looking to try and reduce the cost as well to the town. Holding it at one single polling place for the presidential preference primary and also the referendum will potentially save us over $3,000 per event in our budgeting. So those are the main considerations as to why we have requested this.
Thank you very much. And the concern from the Board of Education and the schools was safety concerns.
Yes, it's a safety concern. We had parents concerned last year about public access to the schools during school time.
Most schools have the ability to shut down or shut off portions of the school that we're using against the other ones. There are a couple of schools that don't have that ability. So in fairness to all the schools, one location serving all 4 voting districts works a lot better.
Thank you very much. All right, so the only question I have left is our town attorney did review this and did draft the amended agreement. Right?
Drafted the amended agreement, yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Mr. Chair, Mr. Mauer.
There's a typo.
Is there a second?
Number 1, it should be expiring June 30th, 2024. That's the amended, so it should be 2024.
Okay, anything
I,
before I make a,
Yep, I also do have a concern. By my reading of this, the licensing agreement has already expired. And by law, you cannot amend and extend an already expired agreement. So I think we would need a new agreement, not an amendment to the agreement. There's a way of drafting it as such that it incorporates as a new licensing agreement that incorporates all of the terms of the firmware agreement with these amendments, and you would just attach the original agreement to it. But I think this needs to be a new agreement if I'm correct that the licensing agreement has already expired.
Just to answer that question, I did, and the registrar of voters will know that I did address it in that manner. And I sat with them. We sat in your office and we went through a new agreement. We sent it to the town attorney and he recommended this path.
I respectfully disagree with the town attorney on this particular matter then. You can't extend or amend an agreement that has already expired.
I agree with Mr.
It
Mauer.
expired of June 30th last year.
That's correct.
It's just, it would make this completely invalid if it was actually brought up.
Okay. Thank you very much. Any other discussion?
My recommendation would be to make a motion that the selectman has the authority to sign an agreement substantially similar to this agreement drafted by the town attorney that is a new agreement rather than an amendment. And therefore we can still accomplish the matter tonight. And then it would just need to be that new agreement that we can sign. I just can't support signing an amendment to something that has expired because it would be invalid.
Thank you. All right, and that's with the additional.
With the change to make it 2024.
No problem. Any other discussion before I hear a motion? Hearing none, is there a motion?
Yes, I move that be it resolved that Terrence P. Rooney, first selectman of the town of Monroe, is authorized to execute and deliver on behalf of the town of the Monroe a new license agreement substantially in the same form as the third amendment to the license agreement presented to council and any associated documents by and between St. Jude Roman Catholic Church Corporation for programming, with the amendment that it expires on June 30th, 2024, rather than June 30th, 2023.
Mr. Mauer, do you have a problem with me treating your motion as a motion to amend?
Yes, I have no problem with that.
Okay, so we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by member Kohut. All right, so is there any discussion on Mr. Mauer's motion? Does everyone understand he wants to do, and does anyone have an objection to that?
I understand the thrust of what he's saying. I'm not a civil attorney, but if our town attorney already looked at this, I don't see why we don't go forward with what he.
I think the only thing that I would add to that, Councilman Mauer, is that this agreement, and I don't know if this changes things. Once again, I'm not an attorney either. That's why I refer to the professionals. This agreement has been continued and operated under with St. Jude's. So Parks and Rec has been using this facility. I don't know if that changes your outlook on the law.
That would present another issue, but what I would say is the intent and language of Mr. Mauer's motion is it's going to be the same agreement. It's just going to be in the form of a new agreement that encompasses
Right.
all the additional terms presented in our third amendment with the one change. Okay, so we're going to vote on, at this point, the motion to amend, unless there's any other discussion on that. Hearing none, all those in favor of Mr. Mauer's motion to amend, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
I'm gonna post.
Okay.
On the comments.
So then we're gonna go to roll call vote. All right, so first it go, yes or no?
Yes.
Kohut.
Aye.
Mauer.
Aye.
Lapellis.
Aye.
Formicella, aye. Wales.
Aye.
Aye. Duva, no.
Nay.
Mr. Reed? Please unmute yourself.
That'll be nice. Aye.
Aye. Okay. And there's nowhere else, right? Okay, so the amendment passes 7-1. The motion to amend passes 7-1. We'll now return to the add issue motion. Is there any other discussion on the add issue motion which has been amended? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, this passes 8-0. Okay. And what time is it now? It's very close. We will move on to item 6. Starting at 6:30 PM, it is 6:35. A public hearing regarding the fiscal year 24-25 budget. Pursuant to Town Charter, Chapter 8, Section 4, the purpose of this public hearing is to provide any elector or taxpayer the opportunity to be heard regarding the town budget as proposed by the first selectman. Just going to get up and adjust the microphone. All right. Okay. I'll begin with those in town council chambers. Is there any member of the public that would like to participate during this public hearing regarding the fiscal year 24-25 budget? Please come down to the microphone, name and address for the record. Thank you. All right, seeing none, hearing none from town council chambers for public participation regarding the fiscal year 24-25 budget. Is there any member of the public that's here online that would like to participate during this public hearing regarding the fiscal year 24-25 budget? Please remember to unmute yourself. If you're on your phone, it is *6. If you are on your tablet or computer, please select the microphone with the red line through it and unselect that, please. Once again, is there any member of the public that would like to participate during this public hearing regarding the fiscal year 24-25 budget that is here online? Please remember to unmute yourself, *6 if you have dialed in, or select the microphone with the line up through it to unmute yourself. Hearing none, seeing none, I'm going to turn it back over to town council chambers. Anybody? Hearing none, I am going to keep the public hearing open till 6:45. Give anyone an opportunity, and at that point, we will close it down, okay? And if anyone feels so compelled to participate, just come to the microphone. In case anybody. Yeah, all right.
People are coming.
I'm gonna call recess till 6:44 PM, at which time we will reopen the public hearing. Thank you. All right, good evening, everyone. It is 6:46 PM. We have reconvened from our recess for our public hearing. I have not seen any new people enter town council chambers, but I will say once again, if there is any member of the public that would like to participate tonight, please feel free to do so. Please name and address for the record. Please come to the microphone. I don't see anyone. We lost someone online, not Mr. Reed, but someone who was watching. So is there anyone online that would like to participate? Hearing none, seeing none, I'm closing this public hearing at 6:47 PM, and I am adjourning this town council meeting at 6:47 PM. I will note to our members that we will have budget workshops tomorrow evening at 6 PM in the annex. So everyone have a good night. I will see everyone tomorrow at 6 PM in the annex of town hall. South wing, I think what people are calling it these days.